Welcome to Kuwait University, Sabah Al-Salem University City. This new campus is the realization of a dream held by many Kuwaitis. It will help Kuwait University become a model institution, providing world-class education and research to Kuwait, the region, and the world. To achieve this vision, we will focus on rigorous quality education that will prepare our students for successful careers. Graduates will be experts in their field, applying their knowledge to benefit domestic and regional development. We will provide them with the necessary tools to participate and be leaders in the workforce, promoting excellence and ethical values in Kuwait and throughout the world.
Our vision for the College of Science was really in response to Kuwait University's general mission. And their mission is really to kind of create outstanding citizens that can be successful in the general society. One of the first things that we looked at was the kind of interactive quality of learning. You know, how much of that learning needs to be structured, how much of it does it need to be informal. The way in which people interacted within those spaces was very important. And of course, building architecture needed to be rooted in that larger historical context. There was a variety of different institutions that we visited, Cambridge in the UK, here, UC Berkeley in the United States. Part of what those particular universities were able to kind of provide them in terms of an educational model was that they were vastly different. In the UK, education was still primarily very Western sensibility in terms of being very, very formal. When you reach the West Coast of the United States, that's obviously a very, very different enterprise. And UC Berkeley, primarily because of their climate, which is more similar to that of Kuwait, enabled them to be able to see an educational model where students were learning in a variety of different venues, which is again part of what we were trying to achieve here with the university. The most important cultural themes that we tried to replicate within the building were the courtyard, in Arabic, the al-hush, which is really kind of a central theme in most of their buildings. The second cultural theme that we investigated was the Islamic street, or the souk, really used in most Islamic cities as a thoroughfare for business, marketplace, but also entertainment. The third cultural theme that we looked at was the musharabiyah, the Islamic screen. And part of that was, again, because of the harshness of the climate. But in many ways, the musharabiyah is something that allows for light to penetrate into the building, but in a controlled manner. And so that as a cultural element was something that we kind of started with and then later developed into facade systems, spatial systems, etc. I think the university did a great job with the master plan. In many cases, when we work with pre-existing master plans, they're very restrictive in terms of the things that they promote. Buildings have to go here, buildings have to look this way. I think they looked at the master plan in the right way. They looked at it as kind of an infrastructure, the way that things should operate, the way that they should be linked. In response to the principles developed by the master plan, we wanted to ensure that the cultural response was also adequate, and that the real life of the building is occurring on the inside, in the courtyard, in the souk or the street. And that allowed for us to be able to kind of organize interior spaces as the primary place where the students were, where they could be protected, where they could be seen in a safe environment for learning to occur. The exterior treatment of the building was one where we hoped to accomplish a couple of different things. We looked at the traditional Islamic musharabiyah, but we reinterpreted it in a contemporary way with a perforated metal panel that allowed for light to penetrate. Ideally, we also wanted to kind of create a connection, not just back to Islamic culture, but the notion of science in the Islamic world. Issues of how mathematics created a pattern, a mosaic pattern, that we reinterpreted as a perforated metal. Part of what is important about education today is transparency. Transparency between teachers and students, between students and other students, in the way that they interact with each other. So inherently, you have a conflict there in terms of a building architecture that is very inward oriented, and the desire to create spaces that allow for visual transparency between all these different venues. From outward appearance, the building looks monolithic, but in reality, it's very transparent because, the perforation allows for vision to go through and for light to go through in that secondary glass skin. We always looked at the faculty club as an opportunity to promote the ideas of interaction and collaboration, not just between teacher and student, but between teachers and other teachers. Its placement is also very important, obviously in the center of the oasis as a kind of a medium or a halfway stop between the female side and the male side of the College of Science. And that was an important attribute also in terms of how we kind of move from one to the other in a controlled manner and with enough supervision that allowed for that type of connectivity. The landscape was really an extension of the interior fluidity of the building. The way that you move through the inside of the building naturally progressed into this kind of landscape series of nodes and pathways that were very fluid. Kuwait University's administration really wanted to promote a campus in which students felt that this was their home and that they could spend more time here. So that insisted that the landscape be created in a manner that not only allowed for those students to realize that they could actually stay in campus longer, have conversations with their teachers and with other students in an environment that was protective of the climate, that promoted interaction. So we came up with a series of landscape nodes that had seating arrangements, that had spaces for students to be able to really hang out and talk while still being protected from the climate. The overarching principles for organization of program really rely on segregating the academic spaces from some of the student social spaces. So the nuclei really provides for that student center, the dining venues and all the things that students kind of need as a social part of their day-to-day life. Organizationally, then, the departments are kind of circling or orbiting around that nucleus in a way that allows for each of the departments to have a face on all of the different floors. And so that allows for the interactivity and interdisciplinary interaction that I think the staff and the faculty was looking for at Kuwait University. Most academic facilities really create a wall between the teachers or the professors' offices and the access that the students have. And in many ways, those are necessary. Professors have to be able to have their time to do their work. But at the same time, I think the university was looking for opportunities to increase that interaction. So all the administrative spaces of professors' offices were co-located with a lot of the learning venues, which allows for students to feel more comfortable in approaching their teachers outside of the classroom. So when we really think about how learning is structured, there's really three types of spaces that most of these academic institutes have. We call the first one first place learning, which is the more traditional formal setting of the classroom where teacher and student interact in a fairly linear way. The second is second place learning, which allows for venues like conference rooms and auditoria and other places where you could still have lectures, but in many ways they're being used today for more interactive or collaborative type of learning environments where students are arrayed around a project as opposed to just having a one-way discussion, a soliloquy with the professor. And third place learning really is everything outside of those first two. So the classroom is no longer the only venue for that type of learning. We look at trying to create social spaces that allow for that type of interaction to occur. One of the pragmatic issues that we had to deal with the design of the building is that many students are going to be arriving at this building and parking first. And so all the entrances are really monumental entrances. It allows for kind of a sense of scale and grandeur into the College of Science, but it also kind of allows for those students not to be confused about where they need to go. So as soon as you move through that initial portal, you are immediately confronted with the Student Resource Center, or the nuclei, the center of the building. In that central resource center are all the things that are more social about the building: the dining facilities, the libraries, the student centers. And so that really is the heart of the campus, or the heart of the building. As we move away from the resource center, you start getting into some of the classroom spaces. Those spaces are at the periphery of the building. The reason for that is to kind of provide the classrooms with as much light and views to the exterior as possible. It also gives us the opportunity to organize that program with those classrooms on the exterior and some of the kind of auditoria that requires more light mitigation or lighting control to be on the interior. The galleries are really intended to be a passageway and a link between the other college buildings. When students are moving from, let's say, the College of Engineering to the College of Science, who do use the Academic Galleria, which is an east and west corridor. Because of technology, we're able to create venues within the Galleria that allows for communication to happen more freely, where students really feel that they are connected to each other and to the rest of the world. When this building is complete, Kuwait University and the College of Science, students and faculty will finally have a place they can call their home.